The court jester. So, in the modern day, men are, whenever they're dating, they are the court jester in a sort of way. They are in a juggling act. They are jumping through hoops that are lit in flames. And, some men from the start, it's not as big. It's not that big of a hoop. It's just you walk over the line and then you're in the game, but then the hoops start to get bigger and bigger, and then there starts to be flaming swords that you have to dodge. Then eventually you have smoke, and you have all these crazy things going on that you're supposed to dodge, and you're supposed to get through all these obstacles, and then it nearly becomes impossible. Now all of these things you're doing, uh, the nature of it is you're doing it because you're dealing with a person who's in a position of opulence, a person who's used to getting their own way, and they're used to having one way interactions. It doesn't necessarily have to do with a person just being a woman. It just so happens that women, a lot of times, we don't really hold them to the same standards as men. And part of that is because of the amount of options they have. Women kind of live in this natural abundance, and it can create arrogance, and it can create um, a lot of issues if it's not met. Like if their life situation isn't met with a certain degree of austerity, which austerity is fairly important for the development of both the sexes, and it helps us develop or it can be a large help in developing our moral compass, and getting to higher levels of morality. Um, so uh, the court jester is in a position where they're trying to make someone happy. They're trying to put someone in a positive mood. And now the difference between the court jester and, let's just say, the king, um, in this particular case, or the queen in this particular case, is the queen isn't responsible for making the court jester happy. The court jester, it's a one-way interaction. It's a one-way exchange. Either the court jester makes the queen happy, or the court jester is either excommunicated or terminated or killed, or whatever. Um, Now, the nature of this job is that a person is essentially being used like a an appliance. Their job is to do something for another person. It's a very parasitic relationship. Now, this can also happen on the other side with women and how they're interacting with men. And, there are some women who end up being the court jester archetype, where they're juggling and to make a man happy, but then the man shows disregard, and maybe he goes to another woman and ends up cheating on her. And, she's still juggling, and she's still trying to get him to come back. It's like, maybe if I was a better juggler, right? So, I'm not blind to the other side. Um, so the court jester archetype is very sad because it's a person trying to chase the validation of another person, but that other person shows no regard. So then the person ends up trying to show even more and more and more. And you see this with a lot of women. They oftentimes go after men who don't show them validation, and who don't, uh, like, they don't show them any availability. Now, I spoke of this as women being attracted to men who are somewhat abusive psychologically. Like, for example, a woman gives a man her number, and she shows positive interest, and he doesn't call back in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. Now, a lot of women are cool with that, but then let's say a guy calls back the same day, later that night, or he texts later, like maybe 2 or 3 days later. Uh, a lot of times that can turn women off. And, you would think it's just a normal thing, because if you just met some random guy on the street, or maybe or let's just say you had a friend, a guy or a person who's going to become your friend, and you text him that same night, you're not thinking about these games that you have to play with a person because of the insecurities and the issues they have with the partners and stuff like that. So one of the things about the court jester is they're having to juggle the expectations and the negative problems that the person is dealing with. So they have to juggle, but they also have to juggle in a way that the person likes and in a way that won't hurt the person's sensibilities and things like that. And it gets to the point where the person who is the court jester archetype, they build up so much anger and so much resentment for the other person because there's not consideration on the other side. It's just the person is kind of sitting on their ivory castle, eating their food, just kind of fat, um, kind of like this Jabba the Hutt creature where they're just sitting there and they're just kind of laughing and giggling at what you're doing, and they're not showing any regard for you as a person or as a human. They're simply using you as entertainment. Um, and now there are different scenarios where a person might see this and where they might experience it, and they might experience it as in the form of discomfort or anxiety. Um, Closest I can think to this would be for women, catcalling, when a guy is like looking at them sexually, but he's doing it like more, like he's going even further with it to the point where it's kind of ridiculous. Um, and she's becoming a spectacle and she feels like an object and things like that. Now, in some cases, women like being viewed as objects, but they're very contextual creatures. So a lot of what they like and dislike depends on the context. So that's a different video for a different day. But yeah, the court jester.